Why is he sending this invitation? After what he did to me? I'm certainly not going.
The letter came on a Tuesday, tucked between a phone bill and a flyer for a pizza place Journey never ordered from. Gold foil. Her name spelled correctly, which was the first strange thing, because nobody in Seoul had spelled her name right in years. She almost didn't open it, standing in the hallway of her apartment building, mail still damp from the rain outside. Malachi was on her hip, chewing on the strap of her bag, 3 years old, and heavy in that way toddlers get right before they turn into little people. She shifted him to her other side and tore the envelope open with her thumb. Lim Sung-hoon and Seo Ha-yoon request the honor of your presence. Journey read it twice, then a third time, standing completely still while Malachi tugged at her earring and asked her something about dinosaurs. There was a smaller card folded inside the invitation. Handwriting, not printed, just one line. He needs to see you before he does this. No name signed under it. Journey's stomach dropped the way it used to drop 4 years ago, back when his name still meant something to her chest, instead of just her memory. She stood in that hallway for a long time, long enough that her neighbor asked if she was okay, and she said yes, she was fine. She was just reading something. She was not fine. She hadn't heard the name Lim Sung-hoon out loud in 4 years. She'd built an entire life, specifically designed to never hear it. New apartment, new job, new country. Same son, different last name on his daycare forms, because she'd gone back to her maiden name the same month she found out she was pregnant and alone. And now here it was, an invitation to watch him marry someone else. Sent apparently by mistake, because who invites the ex-wife to the wedding on purpose? Except somebody clearly hadn't thought it was a mistake at all. Somebody wanted her there. She put Malachi down for his nap that night and sat at her kitchen table staring at the card until midnight. Now, lovelies, take a second and tell me what you're thinking. I always enjoy reading your comments, and if you're enjoying the story, do well to like and subscribe. Renata showed up the next morning without being asked, which was how Renata operated. She let herself in with the spare key, took one look at Journey's face, and said, "Who died?" Nobody died. Worse. Journey slid the invitation across the table. Renata picked it up, read it, and her mouth actually fell open. He's getting married, apparently. And he invited you, apparently. To watch. Renata, I'm just saying the words out loud because I need you to hear how insane this is. Renata set the card down like it had bitten her. You are not going to a wedding for the man who cheated on you and disappeared when you needed him the most. Journey didn't answer right away. She refilled her coffee, even though it was already full, just to have something to do with her hands. There's a note inside, she said finally. Somebody wrote it by hand. Says he needs to see me before he does this. Renata went quiet for the first time since she'd walked in. Who wrote it? I don't know. It's not signed. That's not weird to you? Everything about this is weird to me. Journey sat down across from her best friend and finally said the thing she'd been circling around all night. I think I want to go. Journey. Not for him. She said it fast, like saying it fast made it more true. I've spent 4 years telling myself I'm over it. Maybe I am, but I've never actually looked him in the face and said what I needed to say. I left in the middle of the night with a suitcase and a decision I made alone, and I never got to finish the conversation. Maybe this is my chance to finish it. Renata studied her for a long moment. And Malachi? Journey looked toward the hallway where her son was still asleep, small and unaware that his entire existence was about to walk into a room his father didn't know existed. I don't have anyone to leave him with for that long, she said quietly. And honestly, some ugly, petty part of me wants that man to see exactly what he lost. Renata reached across the table and took her hand. Okay, if you're doing this, you're not doing it small. You're not doing it looking like you're still hurting. You're walking into that wedding looking like a woman who built a whole life without him. Journey almost laughed, the first real laugh in the conversation. That's the plan. She booked the flight 2 days later. Seoul, 4 years later. One son older, one heart supposedly healed. She told herself, the whole time she was packing, that she was doing this for closure. She told herself that on the plane, watching Malachi press his face against the window, pointing at clouds and asking if that was where dinosaurs lived now. She told herself that in the taxi from the airport, watching the city she used to know flash by in lights, she used to find romantic. She was still telling herself that when the car pulled up outside the hotel and her hands started shaking so badly she had to sit on them. Seoul hadn't changed. She had. She just wasn't sure yet if the two of those things were going to be enough to survive the next 3 days. Seoul hit different at night. Journey remembered that the moment she stepped out of the hotel lobby, Malachi's hand wrapped around 2 of her fingers, both of them jet-lagged and blinking at a skyline that used to be the backdrop of her whole life. The street noise, the smell of grilled meat drifting from a stall on the corner, the particular hum of a language she used to dream in. It all came rushing back at once, and she had to stop walking for a second just to breathe through it. "Mommy, why are we here?" Malachi asked, tugging her hand. "We're visiting some people, baby. Do I know them?" Journey looked down at her son's face, so much of his father in it that some nights she couldn't look at him too long without her chest aching. "Not yet," she said. "But you might." She checked her phone. The wedding rehearsal dinner was tomorrow evening. The actual ceremony was 2 days after that. She had time to find her footing, time to figure out how she was going to walk into a room full of people who once treated her like an outsider in her own marriage. She spent the next day getting Malachi settled, letting him nap off the jet lag, narrating her own nerves to him like a bit because that was easier than admitting how scared she actually was. "Mommy used to be somebody here, baby," she told him while he stacked hotel pillows into a fort. "Don't let this blazer fool you. I once argued with a caterer in 3 languages. He didn't understand a word of it. He just laughed because she was laughing, and for a second, that was enough." The rehearsal dinner was held at a private hall attached to one of the hotels Sung-hoon's family owned a piece of. Journey wasn't officially invited to the rehearsal, only the wedding itself, but she'd learned the location from an old contact who still worked event coordination in the city, someone who owed her a favor from years back. She told herself she wasn't going to crash it. She told herself she just wanted to see the building, get her bearings, maybe catch a glimpse of the life he'd built without her before she had to actually face him in front of 200 guests. That plan lasted exactly as long as it took for her to step out of the car, because he was outside, alone, on the front steps, phone to his ear, pacing in that same restless way he always paced when something didn't sit right with him. She recognized the posture before she recognized the face, the tilt of his head, the way his free hand kept dragging through his hair. Sung-hoon. He turned and stopped mid-sentence, mid-call, mid-everything. The phone slipped slightly in his hand. "I'll call you back," he said into it, though his eyes never left her. Journey stood frozen on the sidewalk, with her son's hand in hers. 4 years of rehearsed speeches evaporating out of her head in an instant. Journey. Her name in his mouth sounded exactly the way she remembered. Low and careful, like he was afraid saying it too loud would make her disappear. Sung-hoon. She kept her voice even. She'd practiced that at least. His eyes dropped to Malachi, really looked at him. At the shape of his eyes, the set of his jaw, features that belonged unmistakably to the Lim family, even wrapped in a 3-year-old body. "Who?" Sung-hoon started, then stopped himself, like he already knew the answer and was terrified of hearing it confirmed. "This is Malachi," Journey said. "My son." The silence that followed lasted long enough that a member of the hotel staff came out to check if everything was all right, took one look at Sung-hoon's face, and quietly retreated back inside. "Your son," Sung-hoon repeated. "Yes. How old is he?" 3. He turns 4 in a few months." Journey watched the math happen behind his eyes, watched him count backward through years he thought he understood completely, watched the exact moment his whole understanding of the last 4 years cracked straight down the middle. "Journey," his voice came out rough now. "Is he? I didn't come here to do this on the sidewalk," she cut in, because she could feel Malachi's grip tightening on her fingers, could feel him picking up on tension the way kids always do, even when they don't understand the words. "I came here because somebody sent me an invitation and told me you needed to see me before you go through with this wedding. So, here I am. You're seeing me." Sung-hoon's jaw tightened. "I didn't send that invitation. I know that now, standing here. I didn't know that yesterday." "Then who?" "I don't know," Journey said. "But I think we both need to find out, because I have questions for you that are 4 years overdue, and something tells me you have a few for me too." Sung-hoon looked at her, then at Malachi, then back at her, and for the first time since she'd walked away from him in the middle of the night 4 years ago, She watched Lim Sung-hoon look genuinely, completely lost. "Not here," he said finally, glancing back at the hotel doors like the walls themselves might be listening. "Give me an hour." "Please." Journey held his gaze. "You have exactly that." He found her an hour later, in a small tea house, 2 streets from the hotel, the kind of place that hadn't changed its menu or its lighting in 20 years, the kind of place they used to go when they wanted to disappear from his family's version of Seoul for a little while. Journey had left Malachi with a hotel babysitting service, vetted 3 times over before she trusted a stranger with her son in a foreign country. She sat with her back to the wall out of old habit, watching the door. Sung-hoon walked in, looking like a man who had aged through an entire decade in 60 minutes. He sat across from her without ordering anything. "Say it," Journey said. "Whatever you called me here to say, say it. I looked for you." His voice cracked slightly on the word looked. "For almost 2 years, I hired people. I spent money I probably shouldn't admit to spending. And then I stopped, because I convinced myself you didn't want to be found. And I had no right to keep chasing a woman who left in the middle of the night without a word. I left a note. You left 3 lines on hotel stationery." His hands were shaking slightly on the table. "You didn't tell me why. You didn't give me a chance to explain." "Explain what, Sung-hoon?" Journey's voice rose despite herself. "I saw the photos. I saw you with her, at that hotel, her hands on you like she belonged there. I didn't need an explanation. I needed to not be humiliated in my own marriage." Sung-hoon stared at her. "What photos?" "Don't." Journey's jaw tightened. "Don't do that. Don't act like you don't know. I genuinely do not know what you're talking about." His voice had gone very still, very quiet, the way it used to get when he was trying very hard not to fall apart in public. "What photos, Journey? Tell me exactly what you saw." She told him. She told him about the manila envelope that showed up at their apartment with no return address. The photographs inside, him at a hotel bar with Han Ji-yeon, his hand on her waist in one, her head tilted against his shoulder in another, timestamps that lined up with a business trip he'd told Journey was solo. Sung-hoon's face went through several expressions while she spoke. Confusion, then something sharper, something that looked almost like recognition, and finally, something that looked like rage, aimed somewhere very far from her. "Ji-yeon," he said quietly. "Your business partner's wife." "Yes, so you don't deny it." "I deny all of it, Journey. I have never in my life been alone with that woman at a hotel bar. I don't even like that woman. She's been—" He stopped himself, pressed his palm flat against the table like he needed something solid to hold on to. "She's been in love with me since before you and I ever met. Everyone in my family circle knew it, except apparently me. Until much later. Until it was too late to matter. That's convenient. I know how it sounds." He looked up at her, and his eyes were wet now, which she had never once seen in the entire time she'd known him. "I know exactly how it sounds. But I swear to you, on my son's life, and I still can't believe I get to say that phrase, I never touched that woman. Those photos were staged. They had to be. There's no other explanation, because that night never happened." Journey sat very still, her tea going cold in front of her, 4 years of certainty starting to shake loose from its foundation. "If that's true," she said slowly, "then somebody built an entire lie just to end our marriage." "Somebody did," Sung-hoon said, "and I think I know who paid for it to be built. Ji-yeon. She lost her husband 2 years ago. Cancer. Sudden. Brutal. And in the year before he died, she started showing up everywhere I was, always with some excuse, always finding a reason to touch my arm in front of people. I never encouraged it. I never even noticed how much of it there was. Until now, looking back, putting it all in order." Journey pressed her fingers against her temples. "You're telling me I left my marriage, moved across the world, raised our son completely alone, because a grieving woman wanted you badly enough to fake photographs? I'm telling you, I think that's exactly what happened." Sung-hoon reached across the table, not touching her, just leaving his hand open on the wood between them, an offer she didn't have to take. "And I'm telling you I spent 4 years assuming you left because you stopped loving me, when the truth might be that somebody made very sure you never got the chance to keep loving me at all." The tea house was quiet, except for the hum of an old refrigerator somewhere behind the counter. Journey looked at his open hand and didn't move to take it, Not yet. Her mind too busy rebuilding 4 years of history from a foundation she'd just learned might be made entirely of someone else's lie. They sat in that tea house for another hour, working through the wreckage like two people picking through the aftermath of a fire, trying to figure out what could still be salvaged and what had burned down completely. "Why didn't you fight for the marriage?" Journey finally asked. "If you loved me the way you're saying you did, why let me disappear so easily?" "You didn't disappear easily," Sung-hoon said. "You disappeared like a woman who had already made up her mind and packed her bags before I even got home from that trip." "What was I supposed to fight against, Journey? You were already gone. I called for months. Every number I had for you went dead within weeks. I changed everything," she admitted. "New number, new email, eventually new country. I didn't want to be found. I wanted to disappear so completely that even I sometimes forgot I used to be your wife." "And the wedding," he said quietly. "Ha-yoon, that wasn't a choice I made because I stopped loving you. That was a choice my mother made for me after 2 years of me refusing every arrangement she brought to my table. I was tired, Journey. I was tired of fighting a ghost. I said yes to a wedding I don't want, to a woman I barely know, because some part of me had convinced myself that if I couldn't have the marriage I actually wanted, none of it mattered anymore anyway." Journey studied him. This man who used to be the center of her whole world, now sitting across a small table, looking like a stranger, wearing a familiar face. "You have a son," she said. "That changes something. It changes everything." His voice broke slightly on the word everything. "Journey, I need to know him." I don't even know what I need. I've had an hour to process the fact that I'm a father, and every second of that hour has felt like the ground moving under me." "You can't just insert yourself into his life because your ground moved," Journey said, sharper now, protective instinct rising fast. "He doesn't know you. I've spent 3 years being the only parent he has. This isn't a business deal you can renegotiate because new information came in. I know that." Sung-hoon held her gaze. "I'm not asking to fix everything tonight. I'm asking for the chance to try. Slowly, however you need it to happen." Before Journey could answer, her phone buzzed. A text from the babysitting service. Malachi was awake and asking for her. "I need to go," she said, standing. "Journey." Sung-hoon stood too, quickly, like he was afraid this was the last time he'd get to say her name to her face. "The wedding is in 2 days. I don't know what I'm supposed to do about that now. That's not my problem to solve for you." "I know," he swallowed hard. "But will you at least stay? Long enough for us to figure out the rest of this. Long enough for me to figure out what kind of father I'm allowed to be." Journey stood in the doorway of the tea house, torn between every version of herself. The woman who wanted to walk away and protect what she'd built, and the woman who had just learned the entire story she'd survived on for 4 years might have been a lie manufactured by somebody else's grief and jealousy. "I'll stay through the wedding," she said finally. "After that, we figure out the rest as it comes." She left before he could respond, walking fast through streets that used to feel like home, her mind spinning through 4 years of assumptions collapsing in real time. That night, after Malachi was asleep, Journey sat by the hotel window, staring out at a skyline she used to love, replaying every word of that conversation until it blurred into something unrecognizable. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "This is Seo Ha-yoon. I know who you are. We need to talk before the wedding. Please." Journey stared at the message for a long time before typing back a single word. "When?" The reply came almost instantly. "Tomorrow. Just us. I have things you need to hear, and I think I have things you can help me with too." Journey set the phone down on the nightstand and looked over at her son, sleeping soundly, completely unaware that his entire world was quietly rearranging itself around him, one conversation at a time. She didn't sleep much that night. Too many pieces moving at once. Too many people in this city, suddenly circling the same small, devastating truth. That somebody had built a lie strong enough to end a marriage, strong enough to keep a father from his son for 4 years, and that whoever it was had almost certainly known exactly what they were doing when they did it. Ha-yoon chose a quiet cafe on the 2nd floor of a building tucked behind the main shopping district. The kind of place with heavy curtains and small tables meant for conversations people didn't want overheard. She was already seated when Journey arrived, hands wrapped around a cup she wasn't drinking from, looking younger and more tired than her wedding photos on the invitation had suggested. "Thank you for coming," Ha-yoon said, standing briefly out of politeness. I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't. Journey sat down across from her. I'm still not entirely sure why I'm here. Because you're smart, Ha-yoon said simply. And smart women don't ignore a stranger who says she has answers. Journey studied her. There was no hostility in the woman's face. None of the territorial edge she'd braced herself for. If anything, Ha-yoon looked relieved, like she'd been carrying something heavy for a long time and was finally about to set it down. I'm not marrying Sung-hoon because I love him, Ha-yoon said. No preamble, no softening. I'm marrying him because our families arranged it 2 years ago, back when he'd given up looking for you and stopped caring who his mother put in front of him. I agreed because my own family made it clear refusing wasn't really an option I had. That's a lot to admit to a stranger. You're not a stranger, Ha-yoon said. You're the reason there's still a chance for me to get out of a marriage I've been dreading every single day since it was arranged. Journey raised an eyebrow. You want out? I've wanted out since the day it was announced. Ha-yoon finally took a sip of her tea, her hand slightly unsteady. There's someone else. Someone my family would never approve of. Someone I've been seeing quietly for over a year. Someone I can't have, unless this wedding falls apart, in a way that isn't my fault. And you think I'm the reason it falls apart? I think you're the truth. Nobody in that family wants spoken out loud, Ha-yoon said. And I think if you and Sung-hoon get even one honest conversation in front of the people who arranged all of this, the wedding stops mattering on its own. Journey sat back, arms crossed, working through the strange, almost absurd shape of the alliance being offered to her. You do realize how unusual this is. The bride asking the ex-wife to help sink her own wedding. I've realized a lot of things standing at the edge of a marriage I didn't choose, Ha-yoon said, something dry and almost funny slipping into her voice despite everything, including that I'd rather be the woman who told the truth once than the wife who spent the rest of her life pretending she didn't. Journey almost smiled at that, the first genuine warmth she'd felt toward anyone in this city outside of her own son. Who wrote the note in my invitation? She asked. The handwritten one. Ha-yoon hesitated. That was me. You sent it. I found out about you almost a year ago. Sung-hoon talks in his sleep sometimes, during the engagement dinners we were forced to sit through together. Not about me. Never about me. Always about someone named Journey. He thought he'd lost forever. I did some digging. I found records of the investigators he hired years back. I put together enough of the story to know you existed, and once I confirmed you had a son who could only be his, I made a decision. You could have just told him you found me. He wouldn't have believed it was real unless he saw you with his own eyes, Ha-yoon said. And honestly, I needed you here in person too. Not just for him, for the mother. Something in Ha-yoon's voice shifted when she said the word mother, a careful flattening, like she was choosing each syllable with caution. What about the mother? Journey asked. Ha-yoon was quiet for a long moment. She knew, she said finally. About the photographs, about Ji-yeon staging them. Not from the beginning. She found out sometime after your marriage ended, and instead of telling her son the truth, she let the lie stand, because a scandal that ended his marriage to you was, in her mind, the cleanest solution to a problem she never wanted in the first place. Journey's stomach turned cold. You're saying his own mother let him believe I abandoned him rather than tell him the truth. I'm saying she saw an opportunity to remove something she never approved of, and she took it, and she has never once shown a flicker of regret about it in front of me. Ha-yoon met her eyes directly. I'm telling you this because you deserve to know exactly what you're walking back into, if you choose to stay in this family's orbit. It isn't just Sung-hoon you have to convince. It's a woman who will fight you with a smile on her face and mean every bit of it. Journey sat with that for a long moment, feeling something harden in her chest, something that had nothing to do with heartbreak anymore, and everything to do with a mother's calculated cruelty toward a life she'd never bothered to understand. Then I suppose, Journey said slowly, she and I are going to need a conversation of our own before this wedding happens. Ha-yoon almost smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. The rehearsal dinner was the following evening, and against every instinct telling her to stay away, Journey went. Ha-yoon had arranged a seat for her at the edge of the room, technically not on any guest list, informally slipped in as a family friend by a coordinator who owed Ha-yoon a favor. Journey wore something simple and sharp, hair pulled back clean, no armor except her own composure. She left Malachi with the hotel sitter again, not ready to bring him into a room full of people who hadn't earned the right to look at her son yet. The dinner hall was full of quiet, expensive conversation, the kind of room she used to know how to move through effortlessly, back when she was still Sung-hoon's wife. Heads turned as she walked in. Whispers followed her like a current. She found Sung-hoon's eyes across the room almost instantly. He looked like a man standing at his own execution, going through the motions of a rehearsal for a wedding his whole body had already rejected. His mother found Journey before Journey found her. "You have some nerve," the older woman said quietly, appearing at her side with a practiced smile, plastered on for anyone watching. "Showing your face here, after everything." "After everything," Journey repeated, matching her tone exactly. "That's an interesting way to describe it. You left my son, you broke his heart and vanished, and now you appear at his wedding like some kind of ghost, hoping to haunt him back into your bed." "I left because I was shown proof he was unfaithful," Journey said, voice low, calm, cutting. "Proof, I've since learned, that was fabricated. And I think you know exactly how fabricated it was, because I think you found out the truth not long after I left, and decided it served you better to let your son believe a lie than to tell him his marriage was destroyed by a woman's jealousy and your own convenient silence." The older woman's expression didn't crack, not fully, but something flickered behind her eyes, fast and cold. "I don't know what you think you know," she said. "I know enough," Journey said. "I know your son spent 4 years believing I abandoned him. I know he has a son now that he didn't know existed until yesterday. And I know that somewhere along the way, you had the chance to stop all of that pain from happening, and you chose your own comfort instead." "I chose my family's standing," the mother said, dropping the pretense of pleasantness for the first time. "A woman like you was never going to be accepted at the level my son operates in. I did what needed to be done." Journey felt something settle in her chest, cold and clear, the kind of clarity that comes after months of confusion, finally resolving into certainty. "A woman like me," Journey repeated, switching smoothly into fluent Korean, precise and unhurried, watching the surprise land on the older woman's face like a slap. "I raised your grandson alone in a country you've never had to survive in. I built a career and a life and a home with my own 2 hands, while you sat in rooms like this, deciding my worth based on things that have nothing to do with my character. Your son will know the truth eventually, whether you tell him or I do, and your grandson will grow up knowing exactly who kept his father from him for 4 years. That's a story that outlives any wedding you throw together to cover it up." The room around them had gone quieter, several guests clearly catching pieces of the exchange, even without understanding every word, sensing the temperature shift, the way people always do at the edge of something breaking. Sung-hoon's mother stared at Journey for a long moment, something unreadable moving behind her composed face. "You think a few sharp words change anything," she said finally, voice tight. "This wedding happens in 2 days. Nothing you say tonight changes that." "Maybe not," Journey said, "but I didn't come here tonight to change your mind. I came here to make sure you know that I'm no longer afraid of you. That's all I needed to say." She turned and walked away before the older woman could respond, leaving her standing alone amid a room of guests who had definitely noticed something had happened, even if most of them couldn't say exactly what. Across the room, Sung-hoon watched the entire exchange, and for the first time in years, something in his face looked less like grief and more like resolve. "Real talk now for a second. I want to know how you're feeling about this story so far. Drop a comment and let me know who you're rooting for right now, because I promise you, it's about to get even more intense. And if this story has you hooked, do me a favor and hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new here, because we've still got a long way to go together." Sung-hoon found Journey outside on the terrace a few minutes later, the noise of the dinner hall muffled behind glass doors. "You talked to my mother," he said. "I did. What did you say to her?" "The truth," Journey said, arms crossed against the cool night air. "Something this family seems allergic to." Sung-hoon exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. "I confronted Ji-yeon this afternoon. After I left you at the tea house yesterday, I couldn't stop thinking about what you told me. I went to her apartment." Journey turned to face him fully. "And?" "She didn't even try to deny it once I laid it out clearly enough. She cried, said she never meant for it to go as far as it did, that she just wanted to create enough doubt to slow things down between us, and once the photos worked better than she expected, she never found the courage to undo it." His jaw tightened. She apologized. Like an apology fixes 4 years. It doesn't, Journey said. But at least now you know. I know, he said quietly. I know everything now. And somehow that makes tonight harder, not easier. Because now I understand exactly what was taken from us. And I have to stand in that hall tomorrow and pretend I'm about to marry someone else. You don't have to pretend anything, Journey said. You're a grown man, Sung-hoon. Nobody is holding a knife to your throat. My mother has spent 30 years making sure I understand exactly what disappointing this family costs. And I spent 3 years understanding exactly what raising a child completely alone costs, Journey said, sharper now. So forgive me if I don't have much patience left for a grown man still negotiating with his mother's expectations. Sung-hoon flinched slightly, but didn't argue. You're right, he said after a moment. I've spent my whole life letting her decisions become my decisions. I did it with the marriage arrangement. I almost did it again with Ha-yoon. I don't want to keep doing it with the one thing that actually matters. Then don't, Journey said simply. But that has to be your choice to make, not something you talk yourself into, because I showed up with proof your engagement is broken. I need you to be sure. For your sake, and especially for Malachi's, because he doesn't need a part-time father figuring out his own courage on the fly. I am sure, Sung-hoon said, stepping closer, careful, watching her face for permission he didn't take for granted. I've been sure since the moment I saw him standing next to you outside that hotel. I just don't know yet how to be the man both of you deserve. But I want the chance to learn. Journey studied him for a long moment, the cold night air settling between them, 4 years of hurt, and one very long, complicated day sitting heavy on both their shoulders. Ha-yoon has her own reasons for wanting this wedding to fall apart, Journey said finally, changing the subject just enough to give herself room to breathe. She's been seeing someone else, someone her family won't approve of. Sung-hoon blinked, clearly caught off guard. I didn't know that. She's planning to end things herself, publicly, at the ceremony if it comes to that. She doesn't want to be blamed for backing out quietly and dealing with the fallout alone. She wants it to look mutual. That's... Sung-hoon paused, something almost like relief crossing his face. That actually makes this easier, if she's willing to be the one who says it first. It's not about making things easier for you, Journey said. It's about her finally getting to choose her own life too. Try to remember that part. I will, he said. I promise you I will. They stood there for a while longer, not quite touching, not quite healed, but for the first time in 4 years, standing on the same side of something instead of two people separated by a lie neither of them had built. Can I see him tomorrow? Sung-hoon asked quietly. Before everything happens at the ceremony. Just for a little while. I don't want the first time I really meet my son to be in the middle of chaos. Journey considered it, considered every protective instinct in her body, telling her to slow this down, to guard her son from a man who was still, in many ways, a stranger to him. A short visit, she said finally. Somewhere quiet, and I'm staying in the room the whole time. Of course, Sung-hoon said quickly. Whatever you need. Journey nodded once, turned, and walked back inside, leaving Sung-hoon alone on the terrace with the weight of a decision he finally, after 4 years, felt ready to make. The next morning, Sung-hoon came to the hotel suite exactly on time, dressed down in a way Journey had never seen him before. None of the tailored stiffness from the night before, just a plain shirt and the nervous energy of a man about to meet the most important person he'd ever known. Malachi was sitting on the floor with a small dinosaur toy when the door opened, and he looked up with the open curiosity only small children still carry around strangers. Malachi, Journey said gently, crouching beside him. This is someone Mommy wants you to meet. His name is Sung-hoon. Sung-hoon lowered himself slowly to the floor, keeping distance, letting the moment happen at whatever pace the little boy needed. Hi, he said softly. I like your dinosaur. Malachi held it up proudly. He's a T-Rex. He eats bad guys. That's a very important job, Sung-hoon said, and something in his voice cracked slightly on the words, like he was fighting to keep his composure in front of a 3-year-old who had no idea the significance of the moment happening in front of him. They played on the floor for almost 20 minutes. Sung-hoon following Malachi's lead through an elaborate dinosaur battle, narrated entirely by a toddler's imagination. Journey watching from the couch with her arms wrapped around her knees, feeling something in her chest loosen for the first time in years. When Malachi eventually got distracted by a snack, Sung-hoon looked over at Journey, eyes glassy. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for letting me have this." "Don't thank me yet," Journey said, not unkindly. "This is one visit. Trust isn't built in 20 minutes on a hotel floor." "I know," he said, "but it's a start. And I'm not going anywhere this time. Whatever happens today, whatever happens with the wedding, I need you to know that part is not up for negotiation. I'm his father. I intend to act like one, starting now." Journey held his gaze and, for the first time since she'd landed in Seoul, allowed herself to believe he might actually mean it. The wedding ceremony took place that afternoon in a grand hall overlooking the river, the kind of venue built specifically to be photographed. Every flower arrangement precise, every seat filled with people who had no idea the entire event was about to come apart at the seams. Journey sat near the back, close enough to watch, far enough to not be the center of attention before it was necessary. Ha-yoon stood at the altar in white, calm in a way that unsettled the guests who knew her well enough to recognize it as something other than bridal serenity. The officiant began the ceremony. Vows were exchanged in the traditional order, polite and rehearsed, until it came time for Ha-yoon to speak hers. She looked out at the crowd instead of at Sung-hoon, and her voice, when it came, was steady and clear. "Before I say anything else," she began, "I need to tell everyone here the truth, because I refuse to build a marriage on a lie, the way this family has already built too much on lies before me." A ripple of confusion moved through the crowd. Sung-hoon's mother, seated in the front row, went rigid. "I don't love Sung-hoon," Ha-yoon continued, voice not once wavering. "I respect him. I care for him as a friend. But this marriage was arranged by our families, and I have spent the last 2 years pretending that was enough, while quietly loving someone else my family would never approve of. I can't do this anymore. Not to him, not to myself, and certainly not in front of everyone pretending this is a love match when it never was." Gasps moved through the hall. Sung-hoon stood at the altar, stunned but not devastated, something almost like gratitude crossing his face. "I'm sorry," Ha-yoon said, turning to him directly now. "But I think you already know this is the right outcome, for both of us." Sung-hoon exhaled, long and slow, and nodded once. "You're right," he said, loud enough for the hall to hear. "You are completely right." He turned to face the crowd, found Journey's eyes near the back of the room, and in front of 200 guests, his mother, and a wedding that had just publicly dissolved, he began to speak the truth he'd been carrying since the moment Journey Michaels walked back into his life 3 days earlier. "4 years ago," Sung-hoon said, his voice carrying across the stunned silence of the hall, "I lost my wife because someone I trusted decided to destroy something they couldn't have. I believed a lie for 4 years. I let that lie cost me a marriage, and it cost me knowing my own son for the first 3 years of his life." Whispers spread fast through the crowd. Sung-hoon's mother rose halfway out of her seat. "Sung-hoon, this is not the place." "It's exactly the place," he said, turning to her, something steady and unshakable in his voice that silenced her instantly. "You knew. You found out the photographs were staged, and you let me believe my wife abandoned me rather than tell me the truth, because the truth was inconvenient for the image you wanted this family to keep." The room had gone completely still now, 200 guests witnessing a family's carefully built image crack apart in real time. "I'm done letting other people build my life for me," Sung-hoon continued. "I have a son. His name is Malachi. He is 3 years old, and he has spent his entire life without a father, because of a lie I should have questioned years ago." He turned, searching the back of the room until he found her. Journey. Every head in the hall turned to follow his gaze. Journey stood slowly from her seat, Malachi's hand now back in hers after the sitter had brought him quietly to the doorway minutes earlier, sensing something important happening. "I'm not asking you to forgive 4 years in a moment," Sung-hoon said, voice thick with emotion, walking down the aisle now, past his stunned mother, past guests frozen mid-reaction. "I'm not asking you to trust me overnight. I know I have to earn every bit of that back. Slowly, the right way. But I need you to know, in front of everyone who ever doubted you, in front of the woman who tried to erase you from my life, I never stopped loving you. Not for one single day." Journey felt her throat tighten, 4 years of grief and anger and quiet survival rising up all at once. "You hurt me," she said, voice unsteady but clear. "Not on purpose, maybe, but the hurt was real, and it doesn't disappear because you finally learned the truth." "I know," Sung-hoon said, stopping a respectful distance away, not reaching for her, letting her set every boundary. "I'm not asking for it to disappear. I'm asking for a chance to help you heal it, slowly, however long that takes." Malachi looked up between the two adults, sensing the weight of the moment, even without understanding it fully. "Are you sad, Mommy?" he asked. Journey looked down at her son, then back at Sung-hoon, feeling something inside her finally settle after 3 days of chaos and 4 years of unanswered questions. "No, baby," she said softly. "I don't think I am. Not anymore." Sung-hoon crouched down to Malachi's level, careful, patient. "Hi again," he said gently. "Remember me? From the dinosaurs?" Malachi nodded, small and serious. "You're the T-Rex guy." "That's right," Sung-hoon smiled, something breaking open in his chest that had been closed for 4 long years. "I'd really like to keep being the T-Rex guy, if that's okay with you and your mom." Behind them, the wedding hall remained in stunned disarray, Sung-hoon's mother sitting frozen in the front row, Ha-yoon quietly slipping out a side door with a small, relieved smile on her face, guests whispering in a dozen different directions about the collapse they'd all just witnessed. None of it mattered to Journey in that moment. She watched her son, and the father he'd just met, share a small, careful smile. And for the first time in 4 years, she let herself believe that whatever came next might actually be worth hoping for. 3 months later, Journey stood in the kitchen of a small apartment in Seoul, one she'd chosen herself, paid for herself, in a building close enough to Sung-hoon's place that Malachi could see his father several times a week without either of their lives being upended completely. She wasn't back with him, not fully, not yet. They were taking it slow, the way she'd insisted from the very beginning, rebuilding trust, one visit, one honest conversation, one shared dinner at a time. Sung-hoon's mother had not attended a single one of those dinners. She'd retreated into a cold, formal distance since the wedding collapsed, still unwilling to fully accept the woman she'd once dismissed so easily. Journey didn't need her approval anymore. She'd said everything she needed to say the night of the rehearsal dinner, and she wasn't interested in repeating herself for a woman who still hadn't found the courage to apologize. Ji-yeon had quietly left the country not long after the truth came out. Whatever remained of her place in that social circle dissolved along with the lie she'd built. Journey felt no satisfaction in that, only a tired kind of relief that the person responsible for 4 lost years finally had to live with the consequences of what she'd done. Ha-yoon, surprisingly, had become something close to a friend. She'd since moved forward with the relationship she'd been hiding for over a year, no longer needing to hide it from anyone, and she checked in on Journey every so often, usually with some dry, funny comment about how thoroughly they'd both blown up a wedding together. The front door opened. Sung-hoon stepped in carrying takeout bags, still dressed from a full day, looking more tired and more at peace than Journey had ever seen him. "You got the wrong order again," Journey said without turning around, already knowing from the smell. "I got exactly what I ordered." "You ordered wrong then." Malachi doesn't eat spicy food. We've talked about this 4 separate times. He ate it last week. He cried for 10 minutes last week. Sung-hoon set the bags down, laughing despite himself. The sound easy in a way it hadn't been in years. "Fine, I'll go back down." "You will," Journey said, finally turning to face him, arms crossed, fighting her own smile. "And bring extra napkins this time, since apparently that's also a skill you never developed." Malachi came running from the living room, dinosaur toy in hand, launching himself at Sung-hoon's legs with the total, uncomplicated joy only small children carry, toward the people they trust, completely. Sung-hoon scooped him up without hesitation, the same way he'd been doing every visit for the past 3 months, each time a little more natural, a little less like a man learning a role, and more like a man simply being a father. Journey watched them together in the small kitchen of the life she'd built entirely on her own, now slowly, carefully, making room for someone else to belong in it. It wasn't the ending she thought she'd get when that gold-foiled invitation showed up in her mailbox 3 months ago. It wasn't a fairy tale stitched back together overnight. It was slower than that, messier than that, built on hard conversations and boundaries, and a trust that had to be earned one honest day at a time. But standing there, listening to her son's laughter fill a kitchen that finally felt like it had enough room for everyone who was supposed to be in it, Journey thought that maybe this was better than the fairy tale anyway. And that's where we'll leave Journey, Sung-hoon, and Malachi for now. If this story had you feeling something, the heartbreak, that moment at the wedding, any part at all, let me know in the comments what hit you the hardest. I read every single one of them. And if you want more stories like this, make sure you're subscribed, because we've got so many more coming your way. Thank you for watching till the end. Over and out.